For me, any form of social injustice is just wrong. Society should be a place where everybody is equal before the law, irrespective of your positioning, your status, your family, or your background.
Let's start today's conversation with two statements and one question. Statement number one, every human being has rights. These rights are inalienable and they are protected by the law. Statement number two, where these rights are broached, there are agencies and offices whose job it is to seek redress for the citizen. So the question, do LGBT people have the same rights as everybody else? And the bonus question, where their rights are broached, can they access the same agencies, the same offices for the same redress? Today on our episode of Untold Facts, we will be taking apart this conversation and we will see if there's anything we can do to lay this issue to rest and to inform the larger population. My name is Aritoko and this is Untold Facts.
Society should be a place where everybody is equal before the law, irrespective of your positioning, your status, your family, or your background.
Joining me on today's conversation are two lawyers and we will break apart this topic. We have the beautiful, the very feisty Lara Oriye, and we have the always wonderful, this guy makes me laugh my head off, Yomi Aka. It's good to have you guys in this space so that we can talk about this thing.
Yes, thank you.
LGBT rights.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Why is she so formal? She's so well behaved. Why?
I know.
You want to deceive the world so that we cannot see your face on the
Exactly.
No, it's fine. Okay, we're going to be free. Yeah, let's do it.
So LGBT rights. Okay, no, let's start like this. Human rights.
Yes.
What are the basic human rights? Rights that everybody is entitled to?
Well, we have the fundamental human rights in Chapter 4 of the Constitution.
Okay.
Those are sections 33 to, I think, 41 or so. Yeah, basically, we have right to life, right to privacy, we have right to freedom of association, right to freedom of thought and conscience, we have freedom of movement, right to own property. We have like so many fundamental human rights. Now, fundamental means that these rights are justiciable in the courts of law. When these rights are breached, you can stand up and say, no, I'm not going to take that. And then you can seek redress in court. So these rights are there for us to live free and equal as Nigerians, as citizens, as human beings. So yes.
But now we have this conflict where LGBT people often find that their rights are affected. Is this because of the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act? And in that case, does that act conflict with our fundamental human rights?
So basically, there have been laws that have been already enacted on sodomy laws that protect and actually regulate rights or activities that have to do with same-sex practice. But at the same time, this newly enacted law, as of January 2014, has actually brought renewed hatred and renewed form of bias and violence against LGBT persons. And this, one way or the other, leads to a conflict to the fundamental rights that we have enshrined in the Constitution. Because it breaches against rights to privacy, rights to assembly, to freedom, to freely even associate, and even freedom of liberty. It goes to a certain extent that even an individual, even if you're not even a member of the LGBT community, you are affected one way or the other, because it also implicates you by association or by aiding or abetting or even assistance in any way, basically. So it does conflict with the Constitution.
So now in a situation where an LGBT person's rights are broached, can they seek redress from a court of law or from an agency? You know, a government agency. Let me put it that way first.
Yeah, okay, well, before we continue, I'd like to say that LGBT rights are human rights.
Exactly.
They are not a special set of rights provided for a special set of people. No, LGBT rights are human rights. Now, I would like to say human rights are human rights. You're a human being, you're entitled to your rights. Now, if your right has been breached as a human being who happens to identify as LGBT, you can access the same redress as anybody else because you're a human being. The laws are made for you, and if your rights have been infringed in any way, you can seek redress. You can, report to the police. You can actually take out civil actions. For example, the fundamental rights enforcement procedure is open to everyone. Now, you don't even have to get like a seriously expensive lawyer because most people would complain as to funds. You can get an affordable lawyer and then approach the courts.
But Lara, let me interrupt you for 1 second. We're talking about the fact that state agencies have a mandate to protect your rights as an individual.
Yes.
But we do know that this is not the reality.
Yes. Well, yes, it's an anomaly.
Yeah.
It is an anomaly, and we, like I always say that if we do not push the system, sometimes it will not work for us.
Push the system.
Now,
the system pushes you back.
One has to be aggressive with these issues. For example, if the police is meant to protect you, and they do not, as a citizen, a private citizen, you can write a petition to the IG of police, to the Commissioner of Police, and then you can also get a lawyer to help you write same petition. Like as citizens, we have the right to the protection actually of the police. In a case where they are the ones infringing upon our rights, then we drag them before the court. Yes. I know that it is difficult in Nigeria, especially because you don't even have to be LGBT to be an LGBT person for your rights to be infringed upon. But when these things happen, if we do not approach the system aggressively, we might just end up talking about these issues over and over and over again. I know that it is difficult. I know that, you know, Nigeria has not given us, you know, the opportunity to have faith in the system, but that's why people like us are speaking out on a daily basis. Yes. We're saying approach because see,
but let me ask a question. You know what I mean? Yes. Now we have a reluctance, even in everyday issues, to seek legal redress. Yes. Do you think that this reluctance is part of the reason why the LGBT community finds it so hard, or is it a lack of awareness that these rights extend to you as well? You know, what do you think it is?
I think it's a spectrum of so many things, and part of which you've also mentioned. Having the fact that there's a general reluctance within the society for people to report cases and actually take their cases to be addressed before the court. Also the fact that this particular set of people have been marginalized and also been brutalized and criminalized also gives it like a form of like double jeopardy, like you're already an illegal person, then you're trying to come and seek redress before a law court. They won't. The reality usually is look at the fact of the matter and not the otherwise.
Yeah, another person
yes,
involved
exactly.
in the matter.
The human rights issue and not the sexuality of the individual. But then you find the reverse is always the case. And even you in instances, because at the Initiative for Equal Rights where we work, we document and we follow up cases like this. And we often find even the affected person who is the victim reporting being the person being arrested, actually being accused and taken to court.
Well, this extends further than the LGBT community. It's a systemic problem that we have in Nigeria. Look at the situation where somebody has been raped and then they are asked to prove it in the police station.
Oh yes.
You know, laughable issues like that happen. But like I always say, we need to keep encouraging. We need to keep telling people that, especially the police, as private citizens, we must take it upon ourselves to actually educate them as well. Let them know that, see, when a person's rights have been infringed upon, the only important factor in that issue is, are they human being? Are they a citizen of Nigeria? Then the Constitution applies to them.
And just to add to that, the instance of the level of knowledge. Of course, yes, there's a low level of knowledge, and this has resulted due to the fact.
But are you talking as if you're not in Nigeria? Even if now, when you know your rights, that is when you are in trouble.
But even generally, we don't even know our rights. And then based on the fact that this community is marginalized, it further drives them down the system. Even people don't even understand.
You'd rather not speak up.
So how can this tide now be reversed? Because there is already a suspicion of the system. There is a generalized lack of faith, you know, and this is not just an LGBT issue. So we can say, yes, you need to know your constitution, you need to know this, you need to know that. But how can we take that information from this space to where the larger group of people have access to it?
Well, over the years, in fact, this issue, I know. Okay, like over the years, I've seen people who make books. There's an app now about knowing your rights. You know, and you have in English, you have in Yoruba and in Pidgin, you know, and then I think some other languages, But now the idea is this: we need to keep doing public education. We need to keep sensitizing people about their rights. So I think that it might sound simplistic and, you know, but the idea is, yes, we have to keep on reiterating, keep on telling people that you have rights and you are entitled to these rights, regardless of your sexuality. Now, even though the Constitution doesn't provide expressly for that, it can be construed to cover issues like that.
Okay. Now, when we passed the SSMPA, there was a lot of condemnation from international institutions like the UN and so on. And the Nigerian government pushed back. But is there any way that those international institutions can put pressure on the... Is there anything that they can do from the outside? Or does this just have to be from us inside here?
international communities can actually speak on these issues, but then most of their comments and opinions are actually influencing and not actually mandating or bounding on the sovereignty of Nigeria as a whole, basically, because we're a sovereign state and we have our rights, and there are jurisdictions that which none need be crossed. But through conventions, international conventions and regional conventions, other states can actually put pressure on Nigeria to actually make obligations to fulfill the rights of LGBT persons within the state.
But then again, we live on a continent where LGBT rights are a non-issue. So this does not look like something that is likely to be changed.
Well, I have faith that we would focus on our humanity and remove these laws that criminalize people's existence and their well-being. Because, see, let's say the truth. I know that we're in Africa and we feel as though we owe some special duty to the universe to be more, you know, it's amazing. But I think that these laws cannot in any way better our lives. Why do we have laws that destroy a section of society?
And laws that are so easy to manipulate.
Yes.
You know?
You know, for example, like I always say, that the SSMPA has only created some level of state-sponsored homophobia. People now deal with impunity. People think, oh, you're illegal anyway, I can deal with you however I like. Now, issues like criminal issues. You see young men grabbed off the streets.
Yes.
They are searched, their phones are searched.
I was going to ask about that.
And when they find almost nothing, they say, oh, you look gay. Exactly. This happened recently. Somebody called me and said, they said I look gay. I said, what does gay look like?
What does that mean?
What's the
you know, and
description of
you understand? So I said I look gay, and they were going to arrest him. I had to put the policeman on the phone. Then I spoke to the man like, you cannot do this to citizens of Nigeria. And the boy got released. Okay, for example, we have people who are in rural areas who do not have access to lawyers. They don't have access to even a phone. How did they access justice?
Let's talk about something that is a bit cloudy, because as a country we haven't yet started regulating, and that's social media. We're seeing people being bullied and outed on social media. You know, all the trolling, people being outed in newspapers, in magazines. In that situation, what is the ideal course of action?
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I think you should go.
Ordinarily, I think as an individual, you have a right to actually make claims where false statements are being made, and also as the fact that you've been outed based without your own free will and without your consent is actually an infringement of your personal rights or your human rights. Even directly,
that's the right to privacy.
Right to privacy specifically. So you have a right as an individual to actually make a claim to whichever media house or whoever it is that actually made that public. Yeah,
I think we should sue more media houses in Nigeria. No,
like humongous amounts.
I think civil suits should be, you know, brought before the courts. You know, asking these people to take responsibility for the things that they say and the things that they post. Now, I'm not a party to regulating social media, but I am against bullying. So if you bully a person on social media, I think you should be arrested for assault. And yes, because you're assaulting them psychologically, you're assaulting them mentally, you're putting somebody's business out there. You know, like this is a tricky ground for me. Now, these issues can be defamatory on so many levels, can be slanderous. I think that if, for now, you know, so to an extent, I don't particularly believe in criminal defamation. So I feel like people should not, well, that's what I think, it's my opinion. I think that criminal defamation gives the opportunity to manipulate the law to appease ourselves. But I feel like civilly, yes, people should take action against media houses, against people who bully them online.
Like jail time?
Yes.
Civil would mean a fine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because criminal defamation basically it's a bunch of, it's about 4 sections in the criminal code that provides that if you say something that hurts somebody's reputation. Now, do I think such issues should be criminalized? No. Do I think that you can take action against the person in court civilly and make them pay for what they've done? Yes.
This is really good to know, because it's very troubling. And I know that already, I mean, you have a state bill that is going out of its way to make people feel it's okay to be as hateful, as cruel as you can be. And then knowing that people can actually say on social media, I don't have to deal with this, it's great news. Now, there's something that's always bothered me. This issue of same-sex relationships as described by the bill, and LGBT rights. We're a secular nation. Our lawmakers have made this a moral issue. where is the legal angle that makes it okay for us to have this kind of law in the first place? What is the legal ground? Is there a legal ground at all?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to attempt this question because I think that it's a bit tricky.
I know that we're asking, but do you understand what I'm saying?
I think I see what you're saying now. The government, to some extent, have the right to deal with issues of public morality.
Okay.
But the question I have is, how does somebody's private affair affect public morality? That's one question. On the other hand, the law itself, even though it's in the jurisprudence of law, basically, the law itself is derived from a set of empirical facts, morality, religion. That's why we have.
Oh, you're laughing.
Because she's actually right. Most of the laws were originated from all of this.
So yes, I don't think the law can ever be completely void of religious influence.
Wow. Despite the fact that we're actually secular.
But I think that we must prioritize the secularity of our state. Because if a state is, because religion can be biased, you cannot arrest religion for that. Culture can be biased, but the law is not allowed to be biased. It's supposed to be impartial to every sector of society.
I know there are exceptions under the fundamental rights provision that says a state can actually come into issues for the purpose and the benefit of the citizens.
Yeah, even national security and stuff like that.
But then when we talk about this instance and to do with morality, I don't really, for me, it's not your business.
Yes.
I don't see why you'd want to regulate other people's activities in their private spaces when you say they had the right to be free and to actually own their own space.
In case you're wondering, guys, I feel like we need to spell it out. The government should not regulate people's personal lives. Sexual health and sexual rights should not be regulated, by the government. Now, the government is allowed to make our lives better. But when you're going to make laws that will make our lives, worse by invading our privacy, I think that is wrong. It's a no-no. Because how do you prove that a person is gay? Nobody has gay written on them.
Exactly.
You probably have to search their personal belongings. You probably, and they're not in the process of committing a crime.
In the process of trying to prove a point.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you, Yomi, to land this argument or land this conversation for us with a word out there to any LGBT person who's concerned, who's afraid, who's worried, who's living in fear.
First thing first, take away that word LGBT. You're a human right to start with. You have rights. The state tells you, as a human being, you have the right to make claims where your rights are being breached. It states there in the fundamental rights, even the responsibilities under Chapter 2 of the
socioeconomic
rights of the government. They owe you a responsibility to ensure that you have certain things in place. And where those things are not in place, forget your sexuality. That's just a minute percentage of who you are. Sexuality, I mean, it's not like as if you're walking on the street and you're having sex every instance. No, you're not. The first thing people see is the human in you or the human that you are. And that is the most important thing. Human rights is not talking about straight rights, bisexual rights, or gay rights. It's talking about human rights, human beings. Simple.
Thank you. I think that's just perfect. It's a perfect closing, and thank you so much, guys, for giving us your life.
It's so confusing.
Excuse me, please. I'm trying to do a closing. You're just interrupting me anyhow. But that is the truth, guys. That we are talking about human rights here, rights that every human being is entitled to. And yes, we have laws in Nigeria that might come across as prohibiting those rights, but as an individual, you should get a lawyer. You should get familiar with your laws, get familiar with the Constitution, learn what is possible. Unfortunately, many of the agencies that should protect individuals don't do so, but we as individuals can take the responsibility to ensure that we are as informed and as knowledgeable as we can be. As always, we would love to hear your opinion. So reach out to us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube @Tears Nigeria. Share your comments using the hashtag Untold Facts too, and let's talk about this. Who knows, we might create a wave of change that might give us results that we didn't expect. My name is Arit. Thank you so much for watching.